taking action for you. This morning on TV 20 Detroit starts right now.
What's happening in entertainment? From Tinseltown to the Big Apple, this is your weekly entertainment magazine with Greg Dunmore of Pulsebeat.tv.
Pulse of a new generation. Pulsebeat.tv.
The famous furry ape Black Gamma had the slogan, the iconic slogan, what becomes a legend most? And certainly when we speak of legendary, Eric Beamon is the definitive Detroit known by his international success in jewelry.
Roz and Charm.
Roz and Sherms, yes, in West Bloomfield.
Mm-hmm. That was one of our best stores.
Yes, I know I read this story. You're bringing back a memory. See, this story, I can recall reading this story.
And this
I know I
why
read it, yeah.
when I say, when Karen with this article, I'm like, people are gonna think she's like this crazy lady. I mean, the people, it's not like I didn't exist.
We brought you part one of the fascinating story behind the iconic jewelry designer who hails from Detroit, Eric Beamon. Now we will go into part two of a very fascinating look into the life of Eric Beamon.
I had a retail store, a photography gallery, etc., down on Library Street in Detroit. My manager said, Eric Beamon dropped by. You mean the Eric Beamon? And she said, yeah, Eric Beamon. And I looked around and I'm like, am I being punked?
That's Karen, that's Eric Erickson, that's Vicky, and that's me with my goatee jacket.
Eric Beamon. His journey is very fascinating because Eric Beamon is a legendary name whose name became controversial concerning the business of his name.
So it was basically Karen. Her and her husband separated. With her new partner, there was money there. The first thing that she decided, and it worked out great, was to do a full-page ad in Interview magazine, and it was a simple necklace. But the first person that contacted us was Bergdorf Goodman. And after that, first big order at Beamon's, when you were saying Dallas, I remember going down there. It was like $40,000. But at that time, costume jewelry was, the thing. The bigger you couldn't get any better. So our things were so unique and different with these suedes, not like thick, very like fringe almost. So it really sold itself. Every store wanted to have it. And you couldn't sell to that store because they were 4 blocks over, and because they wanted the territorial.
Now, at that time, you were designing. I want, for the record, your birth name is
Eric Beamon.
Eric Beamon, and that's ERICBEAMON.
Beamon.
That is your birth name.
Yes.
And when you followed Bill and Karen to New York, or Karen to New York?
I actually went before them. I was going to school, yeah.
So when you ended up moving from Detroit to New York, you were there first. No?
Yes.
And was the name Eric Beamon, was that your official design name? Was that the name of your jewelry label?
Yes. Initially, Karen had the money, and her partner at the time, there was money there. Bill was at this time out of the picture. Karen became involved with a young man, Eric Erickson. So in the beginning, for the first several years.
Now, when you say Eric Erickson, was that his formal first and last name? Or
Yeah,
was that
lived in Berkeley, Michigan, and nice man. He moved to New York to sort of work in, after-hour clubs as doorman, security, and that aspect of it. They became as one. So we had so much editorial, and we sold all around Europe and the United States. So she wanted to have, recognition as well. Even though if you dealt with the company, everyone knew Karen.
And the company was, at that point, your jewelry was designed under the formal name of Eric Beamon.
Eric Beamon. That's what that everything was Eric Beamon. When Erickson became involved and they got married, it was sort of the perfect merge because you still had Eric Beamon, but it was Erickson. But people at that time started calling me Erickson, or, it's Erickson. But it's too different. That was his last name. And that's how the company then turned into Erickson Beamon. Because you got to remember, all this editorial building this name up, you wanted that people could somewhat understand, even though if you're on the outside, it doesn't make sense. But she just wanted to have acknowledgement as well, basically.
There's a famous scene in the Tina Turner film that Angela Bassett played Tina Turner, where when she's divorcing Ike Turner, she tells the judge that he can have everything, but he cannot have my name. That's the only thing I want, Tina Turner.
Means you're going to walk out of here with absolutely nothing.
Except my name. I'll give up all that other stuff, but only if I get to keep my name. I worked too hard for it.
Because she knew there was value in her name, Tina Turner, and that was a very outstanding scene.
Yeah.
So when Erickson, and now you're Eric Beamon, and the company sort of becomes Erickson Beamon, emotionally and intellectually, let me know your thoughts. How did you feel about that shift of name?
I'm 65 now, so you're going back several, the 80s, 90s. It was like a dream to me. The name and all of that, that wasn't, it didn't bother me. No, it didn't. I could see where a lot of people would think something like that. But it was, I felt we had other designers working under me, or Karen would have them do different things. That never, you have a big company, you're always going to have designers under you. So I guess you got to pull back and don't take things so personal and look at it realistically. And, this is what you wanted, and I had no problem with it. Eric was a nice guy. So, the name still made the connection. So that's how that turned around. But no, I didn't really have a problem with it.
No, handmade.
What makes the Eric Beamon aesthetic so magnificent? Use of color, use of gems, what?
His talent. Pure and simple. It's a God-given talent, right, that he has. And as he probably told you within his journey of understanding who he is as a creative, that's the important part. Because his business is an aesthetic. It's my idea of beauty, your idea of beauty, anyone's idea of beauty, right? But there's certain things that come together and coalesce that become iconic. And Eric is one of those people. When he first started and you create a buzz and you get a name, it doesn't happen for everyone on that level. So we have superstars in the industry, in all industries, people who excel, they go above, they become known, they become, a big part of the universe. But that isn't the only story. There's the small businesses, there's the people that you may not know as a household name, and of course, all of us, work at what we do in our craft, and we just hope to be good at it. And I think to be the very best that you can be, whoever you are in your creative endeavors, is the story you need to tell.
If I didn't know you whatsoever, this is a striking piece. It is worthy of display in the finest homes anywhere on this planet. But because I know it's an Eric Beamon, it would be just like, oh, this is a Picasso.
Yes.
So that's why when I talk about the name Eric Beamon, now Erickson Beamon for me does not have the same cachet that Eric Beamon does. So, so it is your name. That's where we're underscoring the name Eric Beamon, because to me that's where the magic is. I'm not taking away from Erickson Beamon as part of or Vicky Beamon or whatever. But it is the name that you were given at birth that is the spirit of, when I look at the magnificence of these designs of what you're doing in 2023.
I'm proud of these things.
Yeah.
And you can't really see, but everything I attach, this is a Chanel pin actually, but it's not, these things are all epoxy on here. So I always try to, don't just have something there. I want to do some type of treatment to it. That I love to get involved and do this. It keeps me, I'm bipolar, I'm crazy, I'm this, I have acute anxiety. So I can just sit there and I could be missing one little bead, and I bet you there's one down there, and I'll go and look in that thing just to get, I could use another bead 1 millimeter bigger, but it's got to be as close as perfect. As
you said bipolar, but you're also by genius.
I know.
And wait a second, and we should also buy Eric Beamon.
Absolutely, keep me working.
What a very fascinating story, the Eric Beamon story. We also, in attempt to outreach to Karen Goldberg so she could have a chance to tell her side of the story, our outreach was not successful. Eric Beamon is certainly a name that we are predicting still some very big things are coming his way, and we thank you for watching this edition of Pulsebeat with Greg Dunmore.
Pulse of a new generation. Pulsebeat.tv.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love.
What's happening in entertainment with Greg Dunmore of Pulsebeat.tv.
One of the things that we love doing on Pulsebeat with Greg Dunmore is introducing you to little-known facts that are really very big deals. We're standing in front of Detroit's Wayne State University, and it was universities like this that the African American Student Foundation in the 1950s encouraged African students to come to the United States and study in our university system. One person that benefited from that outreach was Barack Obama Sr., who would, of course, become the father of the 44th president of these United States, Barack Obama Jr. That organization was founded by such iconic names as Sidney Poitier, Jackie Robinson, and the now late great Harry Belafonte.
I began focusing more intensely on Africa and received enormous encouragement from a woman who had now become a friend of mine by the name of Eleanor Roosevelt. My very first experience with Africa was the movies. Tarzan from the Apes. The one thing that I came to know when I left that movie house was that the last thing I wanted to be was an African. But thanks to Paul Robeson and others, and the gatherings held at Mrs. Roosevelt's home, I came to know Africa. I had a chance to meet a lot of young leaders from all over the world who are very much engaged in liberation work and movements. I grew particularly close to feelings for Africa that I might otherwise never have known. One of the men that I met was a young Kenyan by the name of Tom Mboya. He was an important liberator in the struggle for independence against the British. Tom Mboya, along with Jackie Robinson and myself, a wonderful woman by the name of Cora Weiss, brought young Kenyan students to America. Our first airlift was 81 students. And among our many students who benefited from this program, Barack Obama Sr. was one of them. We placed them in universities all over America, paid for their tuition, and worked tenaciously with Tom Mboya for Kenya's future development. In return for their education, they were to go back to help build their nation. It was a rich human harvest for Kenya.
Harry Belafonte, a man that symbolized class, sophistication, style, and an attitude that, he was 96 years old, died April 25th, 2023. So there is a vibe about that man that will resonate for a very long time. So may his memory live on forever. But I want to just talk about 4 fantastic songs in the musical repertoire of the one and only, now the late, great Harry Belafonte. Fantastic gem number 1. This history-making 1958 Belafonte song is the very first million-selling album by an individual artist.
Daylight come and we want go home. Work all night on a drink of rum. Daylight come and we want go home. Stack banana till the morning come. Daylight come and we want go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and we want go home.
Dale. Yes. That was the first hit from an album entitled Calypso that became really an international sensation.
Yeah.
And it was the first million-selling album. And it's really fascinating because it was during a time where racism was rampant, but yet the Jamaican music from the Caribbean and this black man was able to mesmerize America and beyond, not only with his Calypso music, but with this very stunning presence.
Right. Style, the look, all of it came together.
Exactly. So now we're going to go into gem number 2. This is a Christmas classic that ranks among the most charismatic songs that marks an international joyous season.
Right.
Long time ago in Bethlehem, so the Holy Bible say, Mary's boy child, Jesus Christ, was born on Christmas Day. Hark now, hear the angels sing, a new king born today, and man will live forevermore because of Christmas Day.
Mary's Boy Child, a classic. And when you hear the voice, it's very simple, very elegant, and that really symbolized his fashion statement.
Oh, totally.
Harry Belafonte was never
ostentatious, never over the top, but he was his own man. He was, he brought that vibe, the Calypso, that whole region alive with that, with the album. That's why it hit so big, because we hadn't had that kind of feeling before.
Yes. And that song symbolizes, I think, what class is about. It's about simplicity and making a statement and not proving a point, but knowing you just have to make one. And he did that through his music and his advocacy for civil and human rights. Number 3, when I was a very little boy, my mom, Pennison singer Joe Thompson, performed this song, and I just remember loving it.
When I'm with you. Ah, yeah. Whew. I wonder why nobody don't like me. Or is it a fact that I'm ugly? I wonder why nobody don't like me. Or is it a fact that I'm ugly? I leave my whole house and go. My children don't want me no more. Bad talk inside the house they bring. And when I talk they start to sing. Mama, look at boo-boo. They shout. Then but I tell them, shut up your mouth. That is your daddy. Oh no, my daddy can be ugly, so shut your mouth, go away.
Mama look a boo-boo. Mama look a boo-boo. Now, you know, I was young and I don't know if it was the boo-boo that got me, but it was still a song that was so, I don't know, it was just something as a kid. Catchy. I used to jump up and down when my mother would sing that. Yes. And that was a song introduced by Harry Belafonte. Now we've got one more song. I'm going to play that when we come back.
James who started first. James tells the story in reverse. I grabbed my belt from off me waist. You should hear them screaming round the place. Mama, look at boo-boo. They shout. Then mama tells them.
Pulse of a new generation. Pulsebeat.tv.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
What's happening in entertainment with Greg Dunmore of Pulsebeat.tv.
His style, Harry Belafonte. Now, he was 6 feet tall, or almost 6 feet tall.
And all I got that man can get.
You know, when you look at old films like Carmen Jones and, you know, just the presence that he brought on the screen was dynamic.
Childhood years in Jamaica kindled a love of song.
Some of them a holla, some a ball. Some of them a holla, some a ball. Chichi bada, some of them a holla, some a ball. Chichi bada.
At 12, he returned with his mother to his birthplace. I was lost in Harlem, he said. He dropped out of school, and after wartime service in the Navy, he took work as a janitor. Then, one theater ticket, a gift from a tenant whose Venetian blinds he unraveled, changed the course of his life. He saw a world he wanted to be a part of. He studied with the director Irving Piscator, whose theater was fired by a commitment to social change. To pay for his classes, he talked his way into a singing engagement at a friend's jazz club. He was the intermission act.
You twirl the world on your finger.
He went straight to the sky, a friend recalled.
Near you no one.
Club date after club date, he played all the big rooms. Then he quit. I had discovered my voice, he said, but something was missing.
John Henry, he could hammer.
He found what he wanted to say in the timeless themes of folk music.
Sylvie say she loved me.
Then he added the calypso beat of the West Indies.
That's right, the woman is ta-ta. That's right, the woman is ta-ta. That's right, The woman is smarter. That's
Then came the song. He was the first black entertainer to bring the sounds of another world to a white audience.
Work all night and a drink a rum. Daylight come and we want to go home. Stack banana till the morning come. Daylight come and we want to go home. Down the way where the nights are gay.
Hollywood, anxious to cash in on his sex appeal, cast him in the first interracial love story. And television offered him a series of specials. After the first show, the sponsor forbade him to use an interracial choir. Harry pulled out of the series saying, "There is something more important here than fame." More important was the stirrings of a people's struggle and the bright promise of an earnest young preacher. I listened to his hopes and dreams. I looked into Martin Luther King's face and said, "Yes, I will be a part of your journey." Confidant, strategist, quiet courier. His commitment inspired others to join and stand with him.
I just want to say to you how much we are indebted to my dear and abiding friend, Harry Belafonte.
Throughout his life, he has asked, who among us has the credentials to abstain? He never lost sight of the faces of the future, nor of a world he could bring together with his songs.
Thank you so much for watching Pulsebeat with Greg Dunmore. And until the next go-round, never forget, we so appreciate you watching and supporting this show.
Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and we want go home. He said, come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and we want go home. Lift 6 and 7 and 8 and 5.